board here present in person, as well as a number of members that are joining us electronically this morning. Before we begin, I'll ask LCTCS Board Services Coordinator, Ms. Sarah Landreneau-Kleinpeter, to review a few points, given that we are holding a meeting of the board with virtual guests present live streaming to YouTube. Sarah?
Yes, sir. How are y'all today? Hey, everyone. Welcome again to the June meeting. I would like to remind you that the meeting is being live streamed online.
One is unfortunately with flu while performing her duties. That deserves a medal of honor, I believe. So, Sarah,
hey, Monty, can you hear me?
your work. I know you can hear us, but we just simply can't hear you. So,
okay. I can definitely hear you.
Work. I know you can hear us, but we just simply. While we work audio through and provide the update as Klein provided, just to move us forward here. Reminder, this meeting is being live streamed online. Please be mindful of that. Those joining by remote access are each asked to keep yourselves on mute during the meeting. Please use the raise hand feature if you have a comment or a question. When you're recognized to speak, unmute. Give it a few seconds before you make your comments and then return to mute to avoid background noise during the remainder of the meeting. If you have trouble with your technology at any point, you should text or call Ms. Kleinpeter. Those joining from the streaming location, please talk directly into the microphone at your station. The microphone has a minor delay in relaying the sound and will light up when it transmits the sound. You may view board items via the links posted on the LCTCS website. We'll conduct a roll call at the start of the meeting, and each motion will require a roll call vote for approval. Members, please state your name when making a motion. Motions must be made via sound, not gesture. Public comments can be made during today's meeting via open conference call at 877-810-9415, access code 6499147#. That information is in the notice of meetings posted on the LCTCS website as well. Any public comments received will be read during the meeting by the board secretary or designee. All public comments must include an agenda item number, a name, and a brief statement. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per comment. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn to you to call the meeting to order.
Good morning. It's my first meeting for, it's been a while. Good to see everybody. I would like to call this meeting to order of the June 9th of Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Jackson, would you lead us in the pledge?
The United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you, sir. Great job. The point of the chair's privilege, I ask that a roll call be taken after the new student board member is sworn in, making items C and D switch in order. Is there any objection to that? Hear none, we will proceed with that. Mrs. Kleinpeter, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yes, I'll be happy to call the roll.
Do we need to swear in the new member first?
We do, yes, sir. We need to swear in our new member first, and I apologize, that's out of order on the agenda, but since we have not approved the agenda yet, we can go out of order on your privilege. So if we could swear our new board member in, Mr. Raines is standing by to swear him in.
All right.
And I believe, Mr. Chairman, you have a bio to read on Mr. Almadea.
We'll do that as soon as the swearing in takes place.
And Katie or Quentin, could y'all make sure we get a photo of this? Oh, Steve is there. Fantastic.
Hi, Jack. I, if you would state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution and laws
Do solemnly swear I will support and affirm the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of this state,
of this state,
that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as a member of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors,
as member of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
We'll read Jack's bio now. Jack Wagaspack Almeida, is that correct? Almeida. Okay, sorry about that. He's a student at Delgado Community College and majoring in criminal justice. He is from Harahan, Louisiana, but currently resides in Gentilly. Mr. Almeida has held multiple officer positions for Delgado's SGA, including Vice President of Social Affairs and Vice President of Policy. Now the SGA President, Mr. Almeida, has plans on increasing student engagement across campus and creating an even more inclusive community at Delgado. He is a former GLAD campus ambassador and most recently a council member for the Sister Song Youth Organizing Council. He plans on getting a bachelor's degree in criminology and a master's in social work. Mr. Almeida hopes to be an advocate for trans and queer students and demonstrate why representation is important in leadership positions. So you got your speech ready?
Yep.
Still learning how this works. I am incredibly grateful for this opportunity to represent a great institution such as Delgado Community College, and I cannot wait to start working with all of you.
Good. Thank you, sir. Glad to have you. I'd like to note for the record that our other student member, Mr. Josh Kubion, is from CLTCC and was not able to be here today. He will be sworn in at our August meeting. Now, Sarah, I believe it's your turn, wherever you are.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Yes, she's looking over my shoulder.
I will go ahead and do a roll call vote for attendance. Supervisor Price,
Here.
Supervisor Mount,
Present.
Supervisor Jackson is present. Thank you. I see your arm. Supervisor Bradford is absent. Supervisor Carter is present. Supervisor Roman Hardy is absent. Supervisor Tim Hardy.
Here.
Supervisor Erica McConduit is absent. Supervisor Michael Murphy.
Here.
Supervisor Potts. I believe Mr. Potts might be joining us on that phone number, Katie. Can we allow that number to speak and see if it's him? Mr. Potts, is that you?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Salath is present. Supervisor Smith is absent. Supervisor Spears is present. I think I see you next to Ms. Carter. Supervisor Spahn is present. Supervisor Toops is absent. Supervisor Almeida is present. And Supervisor Kubion is absent. Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum of the board present.
Good. Thank you, ma'am. As a point of chair's privilege, I ask that items E and F be reviewed in succession and take up one vote for both items once the review concludes. Is there any objection? I didn't think so. Members, you have received the agenda, and in accordance with the Louisiana Revised Statute 42-17-1, as presiding officer, I have determined that the matters on this agenda are considered critical and are time sensitive and should not be delayed. A roll call vote of those in attendance will be taken at the conclusion of the review of items E and F. Item F is the approval of the minutes from the April 14th meeting. And I will request a motion to approve those minutes as well as those from June 9th, as well as to approve the June 9th agenda at this time. So
So moved.
we have a motion by
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Mount. And is there a second on that motion?
By Craig Spawn.
Thank you, Mr. Spawn. Members of the board, we will have a roll call vote, and I apologize, I'm trying to get to the revised recommendations. My computer's a little bit frozen, but roll call vote to approve those items. Supervisor Price,
yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter, Supervisor Hardy Tim,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Spears. Mr. Spears, I need to have an audible. Yes. Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Almeida.
Yes.
Katie, can you read that statement that I have to verify that more than 2/3 of the board is present because my Outlook is frozen?
Yes, but it's, yeah. Following the roll call vote, Ms. Kleinpeter will note the outcome of the vote, ensuring that 2/3 of those present voted affirmatively to adopt the agenda and consider the items on it.
Thank you.
Would like to say just for the record that this is a well-oiled machine. I know it might look a little rough around the edges at some points, but you know, coming out of COVID, I mean, I was here before COVID. This is a well-oiled machine.
Thank you, Mr. Price, and I appreciate your patience as
Yeah.
I'm trying to navigate this at home.
Yes. At this point, I would like to ask Leo and Gwen Hamilton to step forward.
Well, before we begin, I must say that it was quite difficult to get Mr. Hamilton to this meeting under the guise of presenting on a very important legal matter to recognize him for his service to the LCTCS over the years. So with that, Leo, Ms. Gwen, thank you for being with us today. I'd like to read a resolution. Whereas Leo Hamilton has served as legal counsel for the Louisiana Community and Technical College System since its inception in 1998. And whereas Leo Hamilton has been a strong supporter and champion for the mission of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System and all levels of education in Louisiana for many years. And whereas Leo has provided outstanding legal consultation, leadership, and guidance on far-reaching issues beyond legal matters that have positioned the system as a national leader in higher education and workforce development. And whereas among his many noteworthy professional achievements, Leo has tried and won cases on behalf of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System and provided thorough legal direction for the system while implementing capital improvements authorized by Act 360 in 2007. I'm sorry, Act 391 in 2007 and Act 360 in 2013. Whereas Leo has worked tirelessly as an advocate for innovation designed to grow the state's economy, spark workforce development, and support Louisiana communities and technical colleges' efforts to advance its mission. Whereas Leo has earned the utmost respect of his peers and reputation for being an effective and tough, yet fair and caring attorney with an impeccable record. And whereas throughout his career, Leo and his wife of 47 years, Ms. Gwen Patterson Hamilton, have served on countless boards and volunteered with several nonprofit organizations in Baton Rouge and have encouraged the youth of the community and their 3 children to always strive to give back to the community. And whereas it is altogether fitting that the Louisiana Community and Technical College System recognize those individuals who have made fundamental and historic contributions to this higher education system. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the LCTCS Board of Supervisors expresses its deepest appreciation for the outstanding contributions made by Leo Hamilton during his 23 years of service in support of the Louisiana Community and Technical College system. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be entered permanently into the minutes of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System Board of Supervisors minutes record. Signed on this 9th day of June, 2021 by Paul Price Jr., Chairman, Louisiana Community and Technical College System Board of Supervisors. Leo, Ms. Gwen, thank you for your service. Not just yet. Okay. Leo, over the years, your service to this board has always involved a question of the impact on students. And because of that, knowing your heart for students, the chancellors of our 12 community and technical colleges and our board office have come together to raise over $20,000 in a scholarship in the name of Leo and Gwen Hamilton. We are so very pleased to be able to say that your legacy will continue to impact students across the state of Louisiana. Congratulations.
I'm surprised. And no. First of all, thank you so much for this and for everything that that it means. Having been here, seeming like forever, and Joe and I have experienced a great deal. What last night meant as much as this means to me is this. I've seen how far we've come, and to see where we are today, you cannot believe from whence we have come. The system, I believe, has lived up to everything that Governor Foster intended it to live up to, and has further to go. And it's just been really a pleasure to work with everyone, to see the growth, to see the leadership that's out here now, and it's just been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
At this point, I would like to ask Dr. Joe May to step forward. Dr. May recently announced his retirement from the Dallas College, and we would like to present this resolution to honor him in honor of the work he has done while part of the LCTCS. He was the guy sitting here whenever I got on the board. And well, yeah, I don't know about that, but
couldn't help but think as you look out there and see Joe May sitting on the front row and not in this chair. That's the first time I've had an opportunity to see you in this room, not in this seat. It's much more relaxed over there. You're right. So bear with me here as we read the resolution. Whereas Joe D. May is an extraordinary contributor into higher education with expertise in community colleges and 43 years of experience in all aspects of higher education. And whereas Joe D. May will retire as chancellor of Dallas College in 2022, He has been an invaluable leader of the Colorado Community College system, the Louisiana Community and Technical College system, beginning in January 2007, when he was chosen as the third president to lead the system. Whereas Joe worked tirelessly and courageously in the legislative arena, leaving a lasting impact on the higher education landscape in support of community and technical colleges and adult basic education in Louisiana. Through the development and implementation of a public policy agenda, Joe led efforts that resulted in the passage of multiple landmark pieces of legislation that helped the Louisiana economy, business and industry, helping significantly to transform Louisiana's workforce and rebuilding its middle class. Whereas during his tenure as president, Joe led efforts to improve efficiency and expand access, resulting in the growth of community and technical colleges by more than 60% during his tenure. And whereas Joe worked with two administrations, the state legislature and community partners, to lead the authorization of Act 360 in 2013, with investments combined with the Act 391 investments of over $500 million in construction, impacting and creating state-of-the-art multi-use training facilities across the state at each of the 12 LCTCS community and technical colleges. And whereas Joe strengthened Louisiana's community and technical colleges by expanding the role of the college foundations, creating a national model of adult education called Work Ready U that serves over 40,000 adults annually, and established over 100 innovative transfer agreements that have dramatically improved student transfer options. And whereas Joe will leave behind a renowned legacy, having served with loyalty, honor, and distinction, governed by a keen sense of duty, always showing a visionary mindset when it came to changing the course of community and technical colleges for Colorado, Louisiana, and Dallas College. Whereas it is altogether fitting that the Louisiana Community and Technical College system recognize those individuals who have had fundamental and historic contributions to the system of higher education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that LCTCS Board of Supervisors expresses its deepest appreciation for the outstanding contributions made by Joe D. May for his commitment to the state of Louisiana and Louisiana's community and technical colleges, for the legacy he leaves us, and for his continued vital work. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be entered permanently into the minutes of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System Board of Supervisors meetings record. Congratulations, Joe. That's all.
We need to do Dr. Bonfas before he has to.
They told me to bump it down.
Oh, no, he's been here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, a few comments. All right, nice. Oh, thanks, Katie. Well, both a surprise and a real honor. Thank you very much. And I couldn't help but also kind of reflect as you recognize Leo Hamilton, well deserved. What a wealth of institutional memory and that individual. I mean, he knows where some bodies are buried. Let me tell you. And what a impact that he's had on the state of Louisiana, and thank all of you. Helen just reminded me, she believes, I think she's probably correct, was the board member on the board when I came on board. Although Mickey Murphy was, he and I our first board meetings were the same board meeting, and then I was leaving as Willie Mount and Craig and others came on the board. But, I have to say, coming here when this system was 9 years old, I guess, from its inception, seeing it today, to say it's matured, I think, probably beyond anyone's expectations as an understatement. And to a great degree, it's because the wisdom of governors to put individuals on the board that put students first in everything that we do. You know, I appreciate the reference to the legislation and the advocacy impact, but frankly, with folks like Willie Mount, who understood it, who cared about what we were doing, who realized that this was the way to impact both individuals, employers, and community. In some ways, it was easy when you've got the right story to tell, and you're doing the right things, and you have the right people in place. We're reminded folks kind of want to jump to the front of that parade and lead the effort, and that's what was fun during those 7 years, is not just having to pull people along, but see them jump up front to lead and to celebrate what was taking place here in Louisiana, because it is special and it is impactful, and this is very meaningful for me. Because it really has always been, you mentioned the money for facilities. Facilities are great, but they're just buildings. I mean, they'll go away and be replaced at some point. But for me, it was really the relationships with people who cared and understood what we were about that mattered the most. So thank you for that. And last night, the MJ Foster promise, good grief, I couldn't resist coming back, because there are things that occur in the history of an organization that I think just establish it at the next level. And to get that type of investment directly for students, meaning for the people of the state, and saying that we want that carried out by an organization we trust, because ultimately it's about trust, speaks volume for what's that event and what was accomplished. So congratulations to you, Monty Sullivan, for your leadership, for the board. Chair Price, thank you so much, and appreciate your leadership and your friendship over the years as we've worked collectively. So thank you very much for this. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
There were a few stories that you brought to mind there, Joe, that probably couldn't be shared in a board meeting, but we'll have to circle back to those someday. Mr. Chairman, I'll turn back to you.
At this point, I would like to recognize our very special guest, Dr. Walter Bonfas, who is the former president of LCTCS. Dr. Sullivan, would you do that?
Good. Let me just say welcome to a gentleman that needs no introduction in this system, a gentleman who really poured the foundation that all of us stand upon within the Louisiana Community and Technical College, and a guy that to this day continues to tell the story of the impact of community and technical colleges now at a national level. He is leading efforts that are fundamentally changing. Today, we have with us the Certified Workforce Developer class, and that class will be the beneficiaries of work that Dr. Bonfas has been leading us on to create the Workforce Pell initiative that we hope to see through Congress in this next few weeks. Dr. Bonfas, thank you for joining us. I know you would love to be here with us in person, but certainly appreciate you taking the time this morning to just share a few comments with the board. Welcome back, and I'll turn it to you, Dr. Bonfas.
Well, good morning, colleagues and friends. It's so good to be back with you again. You know, it's my first time, I guess, virtually or even in person, having a chance to be in this particular boardroom with you all. I remember when we designed this boardroom, and I have to tell you, it is serving its purpose. It really looks good. It's very effective. And Monty, let me commend you for your outstanding leadership, not only with just the system, but nationally. I want the board to know that I call on Monty often for a variety of things. And Monty has just exceeded all expectations. I know, Monty, I think it's safe to say with the other two former system presidents you have in the audience, in Joe May and myself, you certainly have risen to the top, buddy. You're doing it well. doing a great job. I want to join you and the board in saluting Leo and Gwen Hamilton. If you think you saw something, you should have been there in 2000 when I got here and we used to have 2 and 3 hour personnel meetings. And Leo led us in those meetings, but something to behold. Leo and Gwen were 2 of the first people that my wife Eileen and I met when we were brought in by Sean Riley to visit Louisiana and Baton Rouge. My wife and I had never been there before, and they have become lifelong friends to us. And so Leo, I salute you, and Eileen salutes you as well. In fact, while I was sitting here listening to this program this morning, I had no clue you were going to be recognized. And so I waved Eileen in to join me in observing. But Monty, I want to salute you and the entire system for the way you guys have evolved. It's exciting for me. In fact, I kind of feel like a proud father sometimes when I see some of the good things coming out of Louisiana and the LCTCS. You guys have really raised the bar on a lot of the workforce training programs, but I also salute the work that William Wainwright has done in getting the campus approved in his area. I've observed what Jimmy Sautel and Heather Poole have done up in the Alexandria area. So it's great to see the system continuing to evolve. I would be remiss if I didn't also salute this board for the passage of the MJ Foster Promise Program. I remember when I first got hired and I had Steve Perry invite me over to meet with the governor, and Kevin McCotter and Ann Knapp were trying to convince me after spending about 6 months at Baton Rouge Community College to become president of the system. And I went over and sat with Governor Foster, and he said, you know, we need you to lead this in-between system that we have here in the state. I never heard community colleges referred to as an in-between system. And I see my friend Willie Mount on the screen here, and Willie was very instrumental in the Senate in getting those things passed. But it just brings back a lot of fond memories for me to observe this room, to observe the way you're doing your business, and to see how this system has continued to evolve. I'd be remiss, but then also thank my good friend and colleague, Tim Hardy, who I see sitting up at the front of the room. And Tim is representing Louisiana in a very, very meaningful way on the ACCT board, the trustee board. And Tim, thanks to you for being a partner with me in this work at the national level. And lastly, Monty referenced the workforce cohort that's in the room today. I'm working very proudly with our association, with the Trustee Association, on something we're calling Pell, short-term Pell. And that is the workforce program that we're trying to promote. And I get that it's up and down, as you might imagine, in Washington these days. You know, you never know where things are going to be until they're actually done. But things are going very well with that program and with that bill. And we're getting bipartisan support, and that means a lot. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to tell you very soon, Monty, that the deal is done, my friend, and that we can proudly say we have a workforce component of the Pell Grant. So let me just say in closing, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with the board today. It's just terrific to be back with everybody. Thank you for your friendship to us in Louisiana when we were there. It's still home to us, very much so. And when I heard my friend Joe May speaking earlier, I chatted with Joe less than a week ago. Joe and I were together. I have invited Joe May and Monty to be on a committee with me and working with the new Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, and we're going to do some good things with that particular committee. So Monty, thank you for inviting me back. I'm sorry I couldn't be there last night, but I'm honored and delighted to be with you all this morning.
Bumpus, thank you so much. We all walk on the shoulders of two great leaders in community and technical colleges today, and you guys have been incredible. Dr. Bumpus, thank you for your continued leadership, and certainly we appreciate all the things that you are doing there in Washington to change the lives of students, and we appreciate the fact that you continue to have that focus, as you heard Dr. May talk about earlier. It is truly about students. So thank you for taking the time today, and we look forward to getting you back to Baton Rouge soon.
I'll be back, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, April was our final meeting of our 2021 student board members, and we really did not have a chance to honor them. I wasn't here, so I certainly wasn't able to. Actually, I told Joshua this morning that I met him for the first time this morning because of all the virtual stuff and the COVID, and kind of met him and had to say goodbye. We talked on this, but that's as close as we got. It's good to meet. It's good to be able to meet him in person. And Tara Mitchell, I don't know if she's on. Is she on?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Glad to have you join us. Y'all represented the system well, and we appreciate all that you did and and all you've done as leaders of your respective colleges. They both graduated in May from their respective colleges, and we certainly wish them well in their future endeavors. And we're going to present each of them a plaque, and I will go ahead and read that now. The Board of Supervisors of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System wish to recognize and thank Tara Mitchell and Joshua Turner for your service as a community college student representative / technical college student representative to the LCTCS Board of Supervisors for 2020 and 2021. So at this point, I would like to ask Joshua if he would like to make a speech or give a few brief remarks. You can come to the table, or their microphone's fine.
I'd like to thank everyone of this board and my instructor who is here with me today, and my chancellors who are here today for pushing me forward. And I've gained a wealth of knowledge from you all, and I appreciate the opportunity for having me. So thank you very much.
Future plans?
Huh?
What's your future plans?
I'm not too sure.
Okay.
It's still up in the air. I play with the idea I want to be a doctor. So
Good. We need some of those.
Excellent. Excellent.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Joshua. Just want to recognize Dean Laurie Como from the Gina campus, as well as Ms. Morey, who is the leader of the LPN program there that Joshua was a part of. And we thank you for the support that you gave Joshua throughout this time. It is a difficult task for students to balance being student, being board member, and taking care of all the things that they have responsibility for. Without folks back on the campuses who recognize that contribution, it's very difficult for Joshua to stand where he is today. So I'd like to give a round of applause to both of these.
Tara, would you, it's your turn to speak. You got a few comments?
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I actually started a job on Monday. So that it kind of interfered with like my plans of attending the board meeting and also the reception last night. But I would just like to say, first of all, thank you, LCTCS, for making graduation such a spectacular moment for me. I would like to say thank you for your leadership. Through sitting on boards like this, being able to represent my college, LCTCS, BRCC, even Regents on platforms like this, I have developed some professional skills I've never thought I would have. I've been given opportunities that I never thought I would have. And I would like to thank each and every one of you. And I'm going to miss all of you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. We're going to miss you too. Glad to have you.
Would you mind letting the board know what your new job is? Because I know you're very excited about that, and I've kept your secret for you. So if you want to let them know what you're going to be doing, I think they would be excited to hear it.
Okay, so Dr. Sullivan and the rest of the board, I am going to continue to be a servant leader in my community. I've actually gotten employment with the Office of the Mayor President for a new initiative called the Baton Rouge Community Street Team. And I'm very excited about that. And I still get to advocate and lead, in which one of my passions. And I am just excited to see where this is going to go.
That is great to hear.
Okay, continuing with my report, which has been longer than I ever thought it would be. I would like to recognize the new kid on the block, Dr. Randy Esters, who is the new chancellor at Louisiana Delta Community College. Would you like to come down and say a few words, sir?
Table's fine.
When I saw Dr. May and Dr. Bonfas here, I thought, boy, they really are happy that I'm back in the state. And then I saw Leo Hamilton. I said, oh crap, I'm going to jail. So, I appreciate the opportunity to return to my home state. I've had an opportunity in the last week and a half or 2 weeks to visit with the folks that I serve over in the Delta, Northeast Louisiana. And best I can do to tell how that feels is to give you an illustration. Imagine LSU and Alabama playing. LSU needs a touchdown to win the game. The ball is about to be snapped and everybody's down on the offensive line ready to go. And then the ball gets snapped and LSU explodes and the tide rolls backwards. That's how it is in the Monroe region. As I talk to those people, I talk to our employees, I talk to our principals, superintendents, they are ready to explode. They're ready to move forward and they're ready to move aside all of the barriers that we have in that region to some outstanding times. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm not athletic, nor am I pretty, but I promise to be the best quarterback and best cheerleader that I can be. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you back home. Thank you. Okay, I would like to remind all the board members that Fletcher will have a groundbreaking for the new workforce and nursing training facility at the Schriever campus on June 24th at 2 p.m. Please let Sarah know if you plan to attend. And with that, I turn it over to Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not sure I've ever had that much exercise in the middle of a board meeting, but we certainly am appreciative and thankful to have all of the guests who have been here with us today. I want to begin with a group that I referenced a few minutes ago and recognize the Certified Workforce Developer class that is with us today. Danny McConnell, Danny, wave your hand. Danny, thank you for your leadership with this group and your facilitation of the CWD class. These are folks that are learning the work of workforce development. You heard Dr. Bonfas mention a few minutes ago the legacy that we have created in Louisiana around workforce. It doesn't just happen. You don't automatically walk into these roles and know how to perform as a workforce leader. It oftentimes is solidified by the work that goes on in the Certified Workforce Developer effort. I want to give credit to a number of folks who created this concept. You may recall Jeff Lynn, who was a key part of developing this curriculum. A gentleman by the name of Kurt Isink that we all remember as leaving such a legacy within this organization, and certainly CWD is a part of that. I want to also thank Jennifer Freeman for her work in coordinating this class, but thank you for the commitment of time that you are making as the fourth CWD class. I want you to look around for a second at this chancellor group. because what you quickly realize is the folks that are sitting in those chancellor roles are oftentimes folks that started right there where you are in the CWD class, learning workforce development, understanding what is necessary in order to be able to meet the needs of the state of Louisiana. It's employers, but also its people. Very proud to have each one of you with us today. How about a round of applause for the CWD class? Also, if we can turn our attention to the 2021 legislative session. I think as all of you are aware, and we are keenly focused on a closing time tomorrow afternoon that is sine die. We cannot wait. Those words are words that ring in your ears about the first week of June, because you're ready for the close of a session. And now we begin to move toward implementation of so much of what we've worked toward. I want to ask Joe Marine, if he will, to come forward to present to the board a bit of an update on where we are. While things are not final just yet, House Bill 1, the budget bill, has been passed, has been put on the governor's desk, I believe is awaiting signature at this point. But we also we'll need to, I believe today we'll see the passage of the House Bill 2, which is a capital outlay bill. So things are still pending a bit. But I'd like to ask Joe to just give you a quick update on where things stand at this moment.
Right. Good morning, members of the board. As Dr. Sullivan mentioned, House Bill 2 is still in conference committee. We hope to have it passed quickly for the capital outlay process. And House Bill 1, while it has been passed by the legislature, has not yet been signed by the governor. It will take some time for him to go through that bill. But to give some perspective, as some of you may recall, the reason why we have Act 391 and 360 was that for many, many years, the LCTCS did not receive funding through the capital outlay process for projects, even though we had a very large need given the breadth and extent of our campus colleges located statewide. But with that said, I'm happy to report that this year in House Bill 2, we currently have 12 campus projects at 8 LCTCS colleges, totaling roughly $87.6 million. So to give some perspective, Act 391 and 360, roughly as Dr. Sullivan referenced, was $500 million. We currently have in this 1 year, $87.6 million dedicated to the LCTCS colleges throughout the state, some of which many of you took action recently at the last board meeting, particularly dealing with the Livingston campus purchase of land around around that campus. That project is in House Bill 1. And with that said, I would like to recognize Anthony Brown, my director of facilities. I call him Johnny on the spot. As with many of these projects, there was a need to enter projects into the capital outlay database. And Anthony Brown was there very quickly to develop project scopes, project numbers to get them in so that these could get funded. We did that on multiple occasions. So thank you, Anthony, for your service. In House Bill 1, we are anticipating this year to receive roughly about $15.6 million in additional funds. To give a breakdown of that, we in essence are receiving $2 million, $2.1 million in mandated costs. We are getting in faculty pay raise money, $5.5 million, which our colleges are currently working on plans for the expenditure of those funds. As you may remember, we approved the policy at the last meeting, requesting and requiring them to submit plans to Dr. Sullivan for a 3-year build out of faculty compensation strategies. Additionally, we have $6 million in an additional new formula funds. And as I thank Anthony, I would also like to recognize Joel Watkins, the budget director for our office, who very quickly was able to look at the funding formula that the Board of Regents had asked us to review and found a slight mistake that probably would have been very costly to the LCTCS. So with that, thank you, Joel, for your service there. Other than that, we also have $3.1 million, $3.2 million in funds for accreditation that were annualized into colleges' budgets last year. And we have $1 million provided to the board office. In particular, this is to help provide funding for small capital projects for those 4 campuses that we're transitioning from Central to Bossier, Sowella, and SLCC. So that will help beautify and fortify those campuses while we work through the year to transition them to those community colleges. And Dr. Sullivan, with that said, I'll turn it back to you.
Excellent. This is without a doubt the best budget that we have seen within the community and technical college system. And it certainly is a welcome message on the heels of what we have experienced over the last decade, a different day. But I want to send the same caution to this group that I oftentimes share with the board. While we are excited about the budget that is taking shape for FY22, we must look down the road at FY23 and 24 and ensure that our cost structure fundamentally changes, because we will not have that level of resource come fiscal year 24. We know that to be a fact. And while we're excited about this budget, it presents an opportunity for seed funds to change how we operate. So we're excited about the budget. Can't wait to see the close of session tomorrow evening, and certainly look forward to a couple of bills that will make its way through the process in the next few days. We also, in addition to what Joe has just shared with you, believe that we will see funding for the second round of Reboot. We're going to hear an update in a few minutes about Reboot 1.0. We are excited about an additional $10 million. I see some of the certified workforce developer folks going, yes, here we go again, right? Exciting. Another $10 million, another 5,000 to 6,000 people in the state of Louisiana trained, skilled to be able to go to work. That's exciting stuff. So with that, certainly one of the best sessions that we have had, given the MJ Foster Promise Program, the budget. Can't imagine that we could have come out of this session with much better of a set of circumstances than what we have now. But now it's time to execute. So Joe, thank you for your leadership on this effort, and certainly want to thank Camille Conaway, want to thank Tommy Williams, a whole range of folks that have been engaged at the Capitol every single day. But the one message I'll leave you with as it relates to legislative work, it doesn't happen during session. It happens in the off season. The work that goes on in November and December and January, when we're out all across the state meeting with legislators, when you have legislators come to you in the middle of the session and say, when do I get to vote on our bill? When do I get the opportunity to vote on our bill? They remember the MJ Foster proposal that we stood and presented to them in January. They were excited about it, and they wanted to know, when can we push the button? That's the way this thing should work. And just want to acknowledge that it is a team effort. Every one of the chancellors in the room today are a critical part of making sure that that message is delivered. So it is the culmination of a great deal of work. Thank you to everyone involved. Thank you, Joe. Moving on to the next
Excuse me,
item.
I do
Yes,
want to
sir.
say one thing. I think that it's very appropriate that we recognize the leadership of our president to help push these things through. He done a tremendous job, and I don't think he wants the credit or the appreciation, but I don't know where it'd be without him. He did a tremendous job, and I commend you for your efforts, Monty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. You'll recall that during the February board meeting, our friends from Healthy Blue and the Louisiana Public Health Institute presented a mental health training opportunity for our employees. We were able to fill 21 of the 25 seats within that training class of individuals from our colleges. And I want you to just pause for a second and recognize the mental health challenges that have been presented over the last 18 to 24 months. Life is different today. Life is different for our students. Life is different for our employees. And it's important that we invest to make sure that our employees have the skills that they need to recognize mental health challenges and to know how to deal with those. Our friends at Healthy Blue have just been incredible partners with us, both with their time, their talent, and with their resources. And we want to thank them for the great work. Also transitioning then to our next update around the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. I'd like to ask Quentin Taylor if he would to come forward and make a few comments about a certification effort that is ongoing within our colleges. Quentin? Maybe one of those chairs from the second grade class, right? Is that?
Well, like I was at my kid's school eating lunch. Dr. Sullivan, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity. About maybe 10 months ago now, we began to work around our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies. Happy to report to this board that during our last annual conference, which was virtual, we kicked off a years-long DEI training session that was led by the Sloan Group. Those sessions ended about a month ago, I think, Jennifer. And In totality, we had more than 700 individuals participate in at least one session. At the conclusion, we had well over 350 people to complete all 8 sessions. Those individuals will receive continuing education credits from Delgado. Thank you, Chancellor Steib. And now those 8 series are available on demand on Canvas, which is our online platform that anybody in our system can go back and review at their leisure or convenience. Also happy to report that we're going to be entering into a very large scope of work with Jobs for the Future around looking at issues of diversity and inclusion in high value programs, in particular information technology and healthcare. The research that we've done shows that there appear to be some disparities, not appear, there are disparities in the number of minority and female students that enter those programs versus them coming out of those programs and going on into employment. So happy to report that we'll be getting into that work. And there are a lot of different things that are happening. I want to be clear. Our colleges were doing a lot of this work, here and there, but now we have a cohesive statewide effort. The task force members have been tremendous. We have had well over 15 task force meetings, but the subcommittees, they've been having their own meetings throughout the year, and just really excited. There's work going on in HR. There's work going on in professional development. There's work going on in many different areas, 6 subcommittees. I'm just really happy about the work that we're doing and looking forward to the progress we're going to make moving forward.
So any questions for Quentin around the diversity, equity, and inclusion work? Thank you, sir. I want to pause for a moment and recognize someone who made over the years huge contributions to the work of this board, particularly within meetings. This past month, we lost a member of the Baton Rouge Community College family and really a member of the LCTCS family in John Henriott. John, as many of you will recall, was a gentleman who sort of kept things running during this board meeting. From a technical point of view, he's been with us almost since the inception, a number of years working here. Unfortunately, we lost John to COVID this past spring. And I just want to offer up a moment of silence for John and his family. And if we will. Thank you. Well, too, if we can recognize a couple of folks. We have with us today Dr. Rick Bateman, who has joined us as obviously as Chancellor of not Baton Rouge, Bossier Parish Community College. Almost moved you south there, right? We haven't told Chancellor Smith just yet, but we'll get to that later. But Chancellor of Bossier Parish Community College, and he has with him his lovely wife, Araceli. Would you both please stand? Great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us for a board meeting. Also want to recognize a member of our board's better half in Dr. Jennifer Jackson, who is with us as the bride of a member of our board, Supervisor Chip Jackson. So Jennifer, welcome. Let's turn to some more big news. I mentioned a few minutes ago, Reboot 2.0. Well, the work of Reboot 1.0 is still ongoing. As you recall, we received $10 million from our governor who said, I want to make an investment in the people of Louisiana. In the midst of COVID, with an economy that has been just shut down, we knew that we had to make investments in people to allow them to go to work, to get back to work, to get back to providing for their families. The governor made that investment out of discretionary funds. He could have chosen any organization in the state of Louisiana to make that investment in, but he chose our Louisiana Community and Technical Colleges. We are excited about that effort. We received those funds about the 15th of July. And in the months that have passed since, it is the work of our colleges that have produced now, I won't steal the thunder, Renee, a significant number of new graduates. And so with that, I'd like to ask Renee Cintron, if he will come forward and just make a few comments about the work that is ongoing around Reboot 1.0. Renee?
Assigned seat here. Thank you, Dr. Sullivan, Chair Price, members of the board. Good morning, everybody. So we started this about a year ago, just about, right? So focusing on 5 industry sectors: healthcare, transportation, construction, IT, and manufacturing. Short-term training, 12 weeks or less, trying to get folks to reboot their careers, just like the name implies. In the first 3 quarters, we have trained 3,200 students plus. We are gearing and ready to go with projections so far to get an additional 2,000 students by the end of June 30th. So that will be the full year, over 5,000 students, which is what we promised the governor and the public of Louisiana, what we would do with Reboot Your Career.
Excellent. And a little bird told me last night that that number could be closer to 6,000 by the time we get to June 30. I want to recognize many of the folks in the room who are working every single day to make sure that we hit those numbers. Thank you for all of the work that each one of you have done. This is the kind of work that many across the country are now looking to. If you look at states like South Carolina, who just passed short-term workforce training initiatives just like Reboot, Michigan, Virginia, go down the list of the states that are doing this kind of work now. And when you hear the leader of American Association of Community Colleges saying that the epicenter is right here in Louisiana, we're very proud of the heritage and the work that we have created. And we're proud of the work that we know that you will carry on as a result of the great training that you're getting as a part of the CWD effort. Renee, thank you to you and your team. Thank you as well to Camille Conaway for great work. Yes, sir. You're good. Just speak.
I'll just speak. Just to comment and thank you for Renee for your work. Are we combining our diversity and outreach efforts with Reboot? Because it seems skills areas that we Reboot Louisiana seems to be an excellent way to do this. Are we maintaining data on how much diversity and inclusion we're doing as we get these people to work?
Professor Jackson, excellent point and excellent question there. And I knew somebody was going to ask, and I was not going to leave without saying. So we are focusing on diversity and inclusion and Reboot and everything else that we do. As Quentin mentioned, you have some programs where the characteristics of the entering class are different from the exiting class. So we have a majority of our completers. So 42% reporting was Black, white 38%, and Hispanic 15%. And then there's other races involved there. So we're keeping track of that as well. On the male and female front, we have 69% male and 31% female. There's a little bit of work to do to make sure that there's enough inclusion of those that want to be part of this training. Of course, there's other demographics and metrics that, rural communities. So we're tracking all of those things like we do with other programs through our diversity dashboard that we have publicly available on the website.
Roger Jackson, thank you for that question. That is spot on. And I want to just credit the great work that is going on between these two gentlemen's units. And I want to point out something that I think is lost in this discussion around Workforce Pell. The average student in credit enrolled classes in Louisiana's community and technical colleges, 27, female, African-American, and typically with at least one dependent. That's credit enrolled students. Our workforce non-credit enrolled students average 36, white, male, employed. If we don't believe we have a policy problem in this nation that provides funding for individuals that need access to this training, we're missing the point. That is the key focus of this $10 million in Reboot, the additional $10 million in Reboot 2.0, and of our policy work around short-term Workforce Pell. We must provide people that need the skills and education the most with those opportunities. So the work that you heard Dr. Bonfas talk about a few minutes ago, the diversity and equity is central to that work with the American Association of Community Colleges, and we'll continue to shine a spotlight on that work as we go forward. So thank you for the question. Thank you, Renee. Next, I'd like to ask a few of our leaders to come forward to talk about the campus realignments that were approved by this board at the April meeting. I'd like to invite Chancellor Jimmy Sawtell from Central Louisiana Technical Community College, Chancellors Neil Aspinwall, Rick Bateman, and Vincent June to talk about the campus realignments that are taking place. I want to tell you, the last 2 months, these gentlemen have been on the phone, working back and forth with one another, meeting in communities all over the state, preparing communities for a transition of campuses from Central Louisiana Technical Community College to the three represented at the table here today. And perhaps I'll start by turning to you, Chancellor Aspinwall, as the leader of the group, and I would like for you to make a few comments about the realignment efforts.
Good morning, President Sullivan, Chairman Price, members of the board. It's been an honor. I can tell you it has not been an easy job going through another realignment, but our first order of business, as you know, is since Central is not COE, they're pursuing that accreditation. As the rest of us are SACS accredited, our first order of business is to notify our SACS representatives and our liaisons, and we have done that. And we've created a schedule of how we will go about achieving this accreditation. Our basic plans are we're in the midst of creating a prospectus that tells SACS exactly what our plans are and how we get these institutions in line with the SACS principles of accreditation. That will be completed by September 1st. We hope that if all goes well in December, the SACS board will say, we like your prospectus and we'll allow you to move forward. And if that's the case, then in March of next year, they will send a team to visit us and visit our campuses that we're realigning. And we hope, since we've done this once before, that they will give us the green light. And then June of next year, they will vote to approve this. But that doesn't mean that we're waiting on that timeline to do anything. We've already visited those campuses. We've already begun to visit with the faculty and staff. We have a transition plan that I'm sure all of you are aware of. We're making plans to upgrade the campuses. You've heard about some of the funding that we've had because we've assessed those campuses and know there's many needs there as far as repairs and maintenance. So we'll start those. We'll begin orienting the faculty and staff, in our instance, to SWELA. As a matter of fact, we have our first meeting today with the campus dean from that campus that we're including in our executive leadership team meeting. So in our visits to the campus, you know, one of the first things that the faculty and staff there, they're on edge. They're very nervous. They want to know what's going to happen to us, what's going to happen to our campus. My response is nothing's going to happen to you. We're going to continue just like you are. We're going to take the first year to assess and determine, you know, how the campus is operating. But in my instances, the way I operate SWELA and our other two branch campuses is I always tell folks this is a business decision. You have to make sure that things are running well. You have to make sure that you have enrollment. I'll tell you one story. One of the faculty members in our meeting stood up and said, well, you know, I have one of the only programs in the state and it's very unique. So what's going to happen to it? And the first question I asked him is, how's your enrollment? He says, my enrollment's good. I said, we don't have anything to worry about. I said, that's why we're here, is for the students. And if your enrollment's good, we continue the program. But the other programs we take a look at and we see how we can improve those, how we can improve the enrollment, how we can improve the institution, and we move forward. So it's, I think in some ways we all make it look very easy, but I want you to know there's a lot of work behind the scenes, not only the accreditation part, but just the relationship building that we have between the two institutions and the communities. You know, we begin to meet in these communities and let them know that there's Central has done a very good job. We're going to continue what they're doing, but we're just moving them to a new institution. So not a difficult process. Sometimes I say it's an easy fix, but sometimes it's not easy to fix. So not saying that there's a lot of things to fix, but we're excited. You know, I tell my faculty and staff in the long run, it's going to be good for SWELA. It allows us to get in the Leesville area in front of Fort Polk, you know, and many of the soldiers there, the soldiers and their families, it allows us to provide programs and services to them as they can, if they leave the area, they can take the credit with them, or if they stay in the area, they can continue with us. So I'm excited about it.
Good. Others? Chancellor Bateman?
Chairman Price, Dr. Sullivan, thank you for this opportunity to speak about this important work. I think that Dr. Aspinwall did a great job laying out the timeline for how we are going to get this done. I'll share this. It was April the 14th that this board voted to approve this campus realignment. That evening, we were meeting with community leaders. The next day, Dr. Jimmy Sawtelle had set up meetings with other community folks and with the faculty and staffs at those two campuses. So we've hit the ground running. Dr. Aspinwall talks about how this process is both difficult and easy. It's been made much easier for Bossier Parish Community College because of the the experiences that my colleagues at the table have had with this work and their willingness to share. Also, within the first week of this board's decision, we received copies of transition plans from the past. We've recently received copies of prospecta that have been submitted to SACS. The degree of sharing, the degree of collegiality and colleagueship has just been phenomenal. So very grateful for that. Also grateful for the work at the board office and Dr. Renee Cintron and Dr. Amy Cable and the work that they've done to make sure that we do this in the right way and serve students in the best possible way. So maybe it's supposed to be harder, but my friends have made it a lot easier, and appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
Good morning. I will echo both Dr. Aspinwall and Dr. Bateman. This is my third rodeo with respect to consolidation, merger, realignment, but essentially this is spelled out to be more of an opportunity exercise for us. And I think that what we are witnessing right now and what we've engaged in over the last couple of weeks has seemingly been the result of just looking at opportunities, and the folks that are involved in this process, even the community stakeholders, our business partners, and the conversations that focuses around opportunity have just been immense across the board. And Dr. Sartell has been very incredible being at the table with us, having conversations with these individuals, helping us to lay out our plan. As Dr. Bateman just mentioned, just sharing best practices around this incredible exercise. And I think we are very excited about what the end result is going to be shortly thereafter.
Chairman Price, thank you, sir. Chairman Price, President Sullivan, thank you very much for the opportunity to share of the updates. Echoing my colleagues' remarks, this has been one of those processes where we have consistently and frequently put forth the consistent message that the student comes first, but the student not experience much, if at any, if not positive, change based their campuses and to the faculty and staff has been extraordinary. Just last week, for example, Chancellor June and I had our second or third meeting with local stakeholders that was generated by SLCC. Just moments ago, Dr. Bateman was negotiating a new idea for us to bring programs not in 2022, but just in the fall semester, both workforce development and credit, in a leading edge way that benefits students and stakeholders in the community. And Dr. Aspinwall has been there with everything else he has going on. I want to thank him. With the rebuild at Sewella, he has made this priority one, and the folks in Leesville, extraordinary things he's having to do at Sewella. So to my colleagues, I want to say discussion has been extraordinary, and to this board, thank you very much.
Very good. Members of the board, any questions of our chancellors? I can't let the opportunity pass without reminding us that if we were in any of the other 49 states, would we be having this conversation in the way and with the positive kind of step forward that you see from this leadership team? For those of you that are steeped and schooled in higher education, you know that we do not typically give up or realign campuses well. But when you see the level of collegiality and work that is going on with this group at the table, all focused on improving the level of service to communities and people, that's what it's about. So thank you to each one of you for the extraordinary work that you're doing, and certainly look forward to seeing this transition completed over the next few weeks and months. Thank you. All right, if you will, we're rounding third and headed home here. We'll do a few college updates. I want to congratulate the folks at Delgado. The Maritime and Industrial Training Center has been designated as a center of excellence for domestic maritime workforce training and education by the Maritime Administration. That is a national designation, not dedication, but designation, right, by Congress. And we are very proud to have that as a part of Delgado Community College and a part of our system. Following at Delgado, the second annual Building Futures fundraiser, a single luncheon that generated $85,000 in contributions to the Delgado Foundation. Congratulations to Chancellor Staub and her team on just tremendous work. Also want to recognize the folks at North Shore Technical Community College. This past Tuesday, they were featured on WAFB for flood recovery training as a result of the recent catastrophic flooding, both following on Hurricanes Laura as well as Delta, and the more recent flooding that took place here in the Southeast Louisiana region. The college has launched its Be Your Own Workforce Disaster Recovery Series, offering flooring, drywall, painting, and tile installation courses at no cost to residents and community volunteers. Please do not let my wife know that this exists, because she will have me renovating it very soon. But congratulations. This was a team effort. Chancellor Wainwright is not able to be with us today, but I can tell you it was Chancellor Wainwright. It was Chancellor Tenney now in her time at North Shore, and a whole range of just team effort. And remember, this is not about enrolling students. This is about helping people to recover. And that is a critical point. Thank you to the team at North Shore. Also want to recognize Fletcher, who recently learned that they will be the recipient of a Blue Cross Blue Shield grant for just under $300,000 that will support faculty salaries in nursing. Again, we continue to beat this drum that we must pay our faculty more if we're going to expect our programs to produce a better graduate. Certainly, congratulations to Chancellor Strickland and the entire team at Fletcher Technical Community College. And on a note of Sewella Technical Community College, Chancellor Aspinwall and his team, a final decision. And when I say final, I mean that is final decision that we will be razzing the Calcasieu building at the Sewella Technical Community College, and look forward to replacing it using funds both from Hurricanes Laura and Delta, as well as funds that have been provided through House Bill 2. And want to congratulate Chancellor Aspinwall for an incredible job that he's doing in navigating the federal processes. You remember a guy named Tommy Warner, who spent nearly 20 years following up on Hurricane Katrina in trying to rebuild Nunez Community College. What has taken place at Sewella Technical Community College is a testament to the fact that we have learned some things in the last 20 years. We are better today prepared to deal with catastrophic events than we have ever been. And Chancellor Aspinwall is the example and the leader in that. So thank you for your great work. Also want to finally mention that our friends at Louisiana Delta Community College will start their first heavy equipment operations program at the Winsboro campus beginning in the fall. Look forward to that great work. If you pass the Winsboro campus and you happen to see dozers and all kinds of great equipment out there, stop, find someone who wants to be trained in one of those programs. It is an exciting time and great work by a team of workforce professionals, and the leader there, Deanne Kuiper at the Winsboro campus, who grabs a need in the community, takes off running with it to make sure that we're able to answer that call. Those are the kinds of things that are happening across our colleges from one end of the state to the other. Very proud of our ability to be able to respond to community needs. Mr. Chairman, with that concludes the President's report. I'll turn back to you. Sorry, have to get to board development. You're absolutely right.
Still have to keep it straight.
That's right. It was a well-oiled machine. He's got to get his verb right there. I want to turn our attention, if we can, to work that we began about 4 years ago. There was a point in time as we were coming off of some of the more difficult years of budget cuts from the prior administration, where we were faced with 22 rural campuses that had an enrollment number that simply wouldn't sustain the budget. We had 22 rural campuses that, for the most part, offered two programs, welding and nursing. Those two program areas are critically important, no doubt about that, but they simply will not sustain a campus at the level that we know we must have. And so we have worked for 4 years to try to make investments in those communities. Lori Como, who was here just a few minutes ago from the Gina campus, that campus was a recipient of a $100,000 grant of Perkins funds to try to infuse cash into those campuses. What we learned was, as we enrolled more students in the nursing program, we simply lost more money because the cost of the program was more than the revenue generated by the tuition. We had to begin to think differently about our campuses. And so this board authorized a few months back a contract with our friends from Deloitte to come in and to take a look at our operations of rural campuses, to look at the community as a whole, and to identify those areas where we can strengthen the work of our rural campuses. What we have learned in the last few months is critically important. 4.6 million people in this state, 750,000 working age adults live within a 20-minute commute of our rural campuses. Can we afford to leave 750,000 people behind? I don't believe we can. And so closing those campuses is not the answer. The answer is to do a better job at those campuses. And what our friends from Deloitte have done is a deep dive into the data, multiple data sets from all different places to help us to become better schooled at how we operate these campuses. I want you to imagine for a second that you live in one of those rural communities. And the three biggest employers in that region, you know who they are: schools, hospitals, and government. Schools, hospitals, and government. And just think about that for a second. We have to do a better job of aligning with those areas. So what you'll hear as we move forward in this discussion, and some great work that has been done in coordination, Dennis Epps has provided leadership to this effort. We will begin to focus on expanding healthcare opportunities in these communities, expanding teacher education opportunities. We'll seek out our partners like the Normal School in Natchitoches, who does a great job of delivering teacher education programs. But if they're not prepared, we have no problem going forward and asking for the authority for that baccalaureate degree ourselves. Because if there's a need, we're going to meet it one way or the other. Expanding healthcare offerings, expanding teacher education, expanding our contributions to rural water, as an example. Doing a better job of ensuring that those needs are met. But it was through this great work by our friends from Deloitte. I'd like to turn, if I can now, I believe Dennis Epps has joined us. Dennis, if you will, I'd like for you to set it up, and I'd like to ask our colleagues from Deloitte to join us at the table. Please welcome.
It's great to be with everybody today. You know, we've been working hard on this. We've had an outstanding team from Deloitte. I know you're going to meet a couple of them here in just a few minutes as they come up to the table. I'm excited to see them there. We've laid the groundwork for a lot of tools, useful tools that we could use not only in our work with rural campuses, but really in regard to all of our colleges as we move forward on this. But with deep passion for all things rural, I'm excited to be affiliated with this and to be involved with this. Again, the study I think you'll find interesting. I want to encourage you to listen carefully and please ask some great questions. And with that, I'll turn it on over to our team from Deloitte and let them introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Chairman Price, Dr. Sullivan, members of the board. We appreciate the opportunity to talk. Just wanted to quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Scott Friedman, and I've been focused in higher education exclusively for the last 15 years and work. Tim Hurley leads our higher education restructuring practice. He has more than 25 years of experience working with government and higher education. He tends to work with focusing on financial modeling and long-range planning. And my other colleague, Megan Kluver, leads our organizational transformation work. She's also worked in higher education exclusively for about the last 15 years. And she's modernize administration, both from a technology perspective as well as from an organizational perspective. Megan also serves as the vice chair of the board of the Vermont State College System. In addition to the three of us, as well as the team of practitioners that worked on the project with us, our Deloitte higher education practice has about 600 dedicated practitioners who are focused exclusively in the higher education space, as well as about 2,000 additional employees who've at least worked on a higher education project at some point in time in their career. So we have a pretty robust practice. I think we've worked with about 300 colleges, universities, and state university systems over the last decade. To give you a quick primer on the tactics of the project, because Dr. Sullivan did such a great job. Sorry, am I not being loud enough? That's not a common occurrence. I'm usually quite loud. To give you a little bit of a primer on the tactics of the work, because Dr. Sullivan did such a great job of describing sort of the purpose and the ethos of our project. We were engaged for about 10 weeks to develop a framework for LCTS to stabilize and grow, specifically focused on the rural campuses. Through the process, we identified a couple dozen people across the system leadership, college leadership, campus deans, as well as a few legislators, apologies. We looked at the operations of the campuses and the system. We looked at academic and student life programming, and we also looked at partnerships, whether partnerships with the local community, partnerships with businesses, or partnerships with local K-12 and specifically high schools. And through the project, we modeled out a few future state scenarios focused on potential changes in enrollment, as well as in state support, which, obviously was part of the conversation a few minutes ago, and ultimately developed a menu of opportunities for the system to consider as LCTCS envisions its future strategy, specifically with an emphasis on the rural campuses. To give you a little bit of a primer on the higher education landscape, and specifically as it relates to community colleges. And again, these are not necessarily specific to LCTCS. Megan, in a minute, will share some of the specifics as it relates to LCTCS. But we did think it was important to sort of set the stage around an industry that is under pressure. And frankly, COVID in some ways has exacerbated that pressure, but a lot of these pressures significantly predate COVID and would have continued apace without the pandemic. Attracting new students is difficult. At community colleges, enrollment declined from 2019 to 2020 by 7.5% nationally, and underrepresented minorities enrollment fell by 30%. There are significant struggles with, retention and graduation of students, specifically retaining and graduating students on time. The 6-year completion rate for community colleges in 2019 was about 40%. So there's a lot of, retention and graduation challenges that community colleges are facing. Similarly, expenses are rising. Revenues continue to fall, budgets continue to be cut. Since 2008, across the country, state appropriations have fallen about 20% on average. And while there are fluctuations, and it seems like from a state budget perspective, you're all very well positioned for the next year, as Dr. Sullivan indicated, it's important to think more holistically and more broadly, and more over with a long-term view, as those tend to fluctuate and historically, at least over the last decade plus, have been fluctuating in a downward trend. And obviously, also a lot of institutions have received significant funding as a result of COVID, whether through CARES or HERF, or through other state mechanisms, but those are one-time dollars and really should be focused on, putting yourselves in a position to, to improve and to grow, over the long run, rather than focusing on kind of using that money to fill one, specific operational gaps. And then the other important thing, especially as it relates to the rural campuses, is understanding the digital divide. And for students who are attending rural campuses, there's often significant lack of access to the internet, which creates, again, the sort of disparity and, a less ability for students in those rural areas to be able to access education in the same way as their urban and suburban counterparts. So with that, I'll turn it over to Megan, who's going to talk a little bit more specifically about the challenges as they face LCTCS.
Thanks. And I'm going to highlight just 2 pieces of data from this slide, because this has been talked about a bit already today. And one that was really foundational to the set of recommendations that we put together and the set of options we put together was the fact that 47 of your instructional sites are in rural communities. And it's important to remember that what means is that each of your colleges has rural sites attached to it. So as we think about the future of the system and the future of service to the state of Louisiana, these rural system's ability to serve students across the state. The second item that I would highlight on this slide briefly is if you look at the bottom row of data here, as we looked at data across the system, what we found, not surprisingly to us or your management team, was that your institutions operate quite differently. And as we look at metrics across the institution, if we looked at the cost of delivering a credit hour, if we look at the range of total students, of the number of students who are required to really keep a campus viable for that community, it really depends on the college and on that instructional site. So again, as we put together a menu of opportunities, we were thoughtful about the fact that there's not a one size fits all solution. There are different solutions for your different campuses, but there are some wrappers essentially that go across the top of it. I also want to spend a minute just talking a bit about the data model that we left your management team with. So one of the key exercises that we engaged with, which is something that we do not just with our higher education clients, but Tim often does with other nonprofit and corporate clients, is to build a scenario model so that the system can stress test what happens if our status quo doesn't continue. So we established a baseline foundational model, and you'll see on this slide the dotted line that goes straight up as you would like it to is in the status quo modeling across the system. What will your cash balances do over the next 5 years at the system level? And when we look at the status quo, looking at your enrollment continuing as it is, your state appropriations continuing, but taking out any factors for one-time funding, you do see those cash balances sustaining and growing over time. So this leaves us with a status quo that across the system is a comfortable starting point. We then worked with the management team to model out different scenarios. So what happens if state appropriations don't continue at the levels that they have in the past? What happens if enrollment declines? And even at the system level, what you see here on this chart is the line that's going sharply downward. This is what happens if in this particular hypothetical scenario, if there was a 25% decline in state appropriations sustained over a 2-year period. So resulting in just slightly less than 50% of state appropriations from where you are today. A hypothetical scenario that we hope will not happen because there are needs in this state. But if that happens, you see those cash balances as you would expect going down. The middle line on here is once you address and make operational changes consummate with that drop in state appropriations, you will start to see those cash balances build up. But an important note on here is you see the dip before the buildup. Structurally within higher education, operational changes take time. So one of the key findings from our report, and one of the things that we hope you will take from our discussion today, is that acting now from a position of strength to put in place flexibility and to begin to build the thought process of what that future will look like will shorten that time to react should something happen in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years. The system will be prepared to deal with that. Okay. We did, as we said, put together a comprehensive report. I do have a copy of it here because I was preparing for this meeting. It's 150 pages. Dr. Sullivan suggested that I should not go through 150 slides. So we have brought to you today 3 recommendations, 3 findings from our menu of opportunities that really stood out as helping to address the challenges in the rural campuses and begin to change the needle and direction on keeping those campuses viable. And I'll highlight these briefly. So a focus on adult learners, a focus on the fast forward and dual enrollment programs, and a focus on the Justice Pell programs. I think one of the numbers that we've heard in the conversations last night was just over 1 million individuals in the state who don't have a college degree. So these findings, this set of recommendations for a menu of options are very much focused on meeting the needs of that population who has not been served by education in the past, and really represents an opportunity to both serve your mission to the state and to continue to bolster those rural campuses by increasing the number of students on those campuses. And we'll close our conversation today with the board and leadership role in transformation. Because one of our hopes as we leave you with this 150-page report is that this will help you move forward into the future. And as we think about the leadership role in moving these menu of options forward into operational change, there's three aspects that we want to highlight. The first is a thoughtful approach in funding allocation as you go forward. We are at a moment in higher education right now where there is seed funding. There are federal monies that are coming in and one-time money. We are seeing prudent systems be thoughtful in how this money is used to fund transformation going forward and to invest in the future of the system. The second piece we would suggest is looking at how the system continues to identify and address shrinking rural campuses. So thinking about the data and the metrics that management and board leadership and campus leadership look at on an ongoing basis to understand and proactively look for where your campuses may start to falter. So again, you can react before you have significant problems. And then the last is really looking at empowering action and ensuring accountability across the system. As we looked at the data, as we had conversations with leaders across the system, one of our key findings was that there are significant opportunities. There are things happening on your campuses that can be brought across the system to really bring change. We didn't need to look outside of the state. We didn't even need to look outside of the system to find those case studies. So creating a culture where you really empower and continue to encourage that sharing of ideas and accountability for results across the system can help you to move forward in an effective way. So we will close there and did want to take your questions.
Thank you to Tim, to Scott, to Megan. I was struck as you talked through, you guys must be really busy these days because there are a lot of changes going on in higher education around the nation. But with that, let me turn to the board members, ask if there are any questions. That there is a great deal of work in that 150 pages, and we're thankful for each one of you. Also want to recognize Scott Huntsman, who has been a friend and a colleague in this work as well. Thank you for all of your leadership with this work. What we will plan to do is to come back to the board with a plan of action that results from that 150-page report. Just want to say thank you to each one of you for your contributions to helping us to become better at serving the rural communities of Louisiana. Thank you. All right, very good. Mr. Chairman, with that, I will turn to you for the business if I may, there's one other point that I think is important to note as a part of this presentation. It's difficult in a time where we're seeing new resources to imagine that we would lose dollars in higher education from budgets. But you only have to look to this past week where the Senate took a vote where every member of the Senate voted to dedicate $440 million to infrastructure projects. That $440 million comes right out of the operating budget of our colleges, of higher education, of healthcare, and of other operations across the state of Louisiana. It is a real concern as to what will happen with budgets going forward. So thank you for your very timely work. Very much appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. As a point of chair's privilege, I ask that items I-1 through I-6 be reviewed in succession and taken up as one vote for all those items once the review concludes. Is there any objection? I do not hear an objection. At this point, I want to present the committee of the whole action items for consideration by the board. Is there something you do? Sure.
We'll take those. We are. Staff recommends that the board ratify the actions taken during the May 26, 2021 meeting of the LCTCS Board Executive Committee.
I'm sorry, Dr. Sullivan, Ms. Mount, did you have something?
Did we need a roll call vote before that?
We did a roll call at the start of the meeting for our attendance, and we don't need a roll call vote for the chairs unless he had an objection.
Okay, just making sure. Thanks.
There was no objection to the chair's privilege, so we were able to go forward with the items, and we'll take one vote at the end of all 6 items.
Move ratification.
We don't have to have a motion on that. It goes to the next item. So we're on item number 2.
He's taking on water. I lost my place.
Y'all are doing just fine. Supervisor Carter, if you could present the academic items for consideration.
For the consideration of the board, the academics, military, to matrix military, the background for the credit for the prior learning of 1023,023 requires that we do a update on it annually. And
Yes, sir. Ms. Helen, I think Renee Centron is gonna present that to the board for you.
I have somebody. Okay, good.
Have somebody. You have me right
Yes.
here.
Good, would you please? They just,
Yeah, yes,
they just
Supervisor
threw
Carter.
this in front of me now and I didn't know.
I'll be your one phone call.
Well, please take care of it, dear.
Thank you, Ms. Helen.
Well, good morning again, everybody. As you recall, this board took action on the credit for prior learning policy a few years back. That involved combining all of the opportunities for credit for prior learning from CLEP, from industry-based certifications, from military training into one document that is housed on the policies page at LCTCS. The faculty and staff of the colleges have been working diligently on this over time, and each year we update it. The reason for this particular board information item is that we have done something pretty unique here in our system, which is provide credit for military training for general education. Typically, you have a military personnel that's training as an electrician, and then they receive technical credit for electrical 101, 102, and so on. But what we have done here is dive into the work that happens in the technical education at the military level and see opportunities for credit in mathematics, language, English, social science, and so on the other general education points. So that is all that's going to be available as well as part of the overall credit for prior learning matrix is the expansion to the military articulation matrix on the LCTCS policy site.
Thank you for explaining.
Certainly. This is board information.
Questions from the
Be
board?
considered. We can
Need to move on to the next one. Thank you, Supervisor Carter. We'll now turn it over to Supervisor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have 3 items under facilities, and my right hand, Joe, is coming to the table. So, item 3, review and advisement, preliminary capital outlay request for FY 22-23.
Sir, this is not an action item, but as we do every year, we do a submittal to the board for review and advisement of the capital outlay recommendations for fiscal year 23, 2 years out, to give some perspective. So, and what will happen is we will then, after review and advisement, if there are any corrections or modifications, we'll present this to the board for final action at our next meeting in August, at which point we will then submit it to the Board of Regents for them to compile on behalf of all of higher ed before they formally act on it at their November meeting and submit it to the state for their recommendation. So to the action item, staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the 2022-23 capital outlay preliminary list of recommended projects.
Chairman, do we want to vote on either all together or each one individual?
No, all together.
All together. Okay, thank you. I'm moving on to item 4, grant of particular use, Delgado Community College School of Nursing building.
Sir, as many of you are aware, currently Delgado is undertaking the Act 360 Nursing Allied Health Project on the main City Park campus for their nursing and allied health programs, which are currently housed at the LSU School of Nursing or Charity School of Nursing in downtown New Orleans. It's a lease type of agreement that we've had with them for many, many years. And so we bring this item before you to, in essence, extend it out through June 30th of 2024, which we know is well beyond the timeframe by which the Act 360 project will be completed. But it gives us time to complete the project, make sure we resolve any issues if there are any, which we doubt, but to also give us time to migrate equipment and other items from the existing building downtown to the new Charity School of Nursing. So with that said, staff recommends that the board authorize the renewal of the grant of particular use of the School of Nursing building through the State Lands Office to Delgado Community College for a period of 2 years, effective from July 1, 2022 through June 30th of 2024.
Thank you for that, Joe. And item 5, property donation to River Parishes Community College.
Sir, River Parishes Community College has been approached by the family of an individual who wishes to donate a piece of property in the Donaldsonville downtown area. As some of you may know and be aware, the Mississippi River provides not only a physical barrier, but in some cases a mental barrier for people to cross the bridge, to cross over into Donaldsonville to get educational services, or from Donaldsonville, I'm sorry, to Gonzales, to where the River Parishes College campus is located. So the intent is to accept this property, obviously do due diligence on that property prior to formal acceptance, and to establish an adult education learning center in downtown Donaldsonville to help serve that community, which historically has gone underserved. And as such, staff recommends that the board authorize and accept the donation of property located at 501 Mississippi Street, Donaldsonville, Louisiana, from Charles Tebow through the River Parishes Community College Foundation upon completion of final due diligence. The donation of this property must be recorded with the local clerk of court and the state land office.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Chairman, you've heard recommendations, items 3, 4, and 5. Any discussion, any questions? If not, can I have a motion?
Move. This is Craig Spahn.
We don't need a motion at this time. Board members, we're going to do one motion at the end of all 6 of the items. But would you ask if you have any questions for any of the facility items?
And with your, okay. Chairman, Supervisor Salath, would you?
Thank you, Chairman. The Finance Committee recommends or offers for consideration tuition and mandatory fee for academic year 2021-22.
Sir, this item is really being brought before you to reaffirm the board's position as it relates to tuition and mandatory fees to our students. Historically, the LCTCS tuition and fees have been above the SREB, and given COVID-19 issues and other affordability concerns, we have not increased tuition to our tuition and mandatory fees over the past 3 to 4 years. After reviewing our data as compared to the SREB, again, we still feel that we should hold our tuition and mandatory fees where they are, given that while we are pretty much close to the SREB, Louisiana's poverty, though, is greater than that in the SREB. So we need to factor that into account going forward. Currently, just to give you a point of reference, for a full-time student attending any one of our colleges throughout the year for an annual period, the cost is roughly $4,250. And while that may not seem like a lot to you and me, obviously for the working class people on the street, $4,200, it's a lot of money. So with that said, given ongoing concerns of tuition affordability, staff recommends that the board continue past practice and not increase tuition and mandatory fees at LCTCS colleges for academic year 2021-2022.
Thank you, Joe. That's the, you heard the recommendation, Mr. Chairman. Is there any questions, comments pertaining to this item?
Okay, now as chair, I recommend that the board approve the item, agenda items I1 through I6. Is there a motion to that effect?
Move.
So moved by Mr. Jackson and a second by Ms. Mount.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Or would you call?
Members of the board will do a roll call vote to approve the motion of approving items 1 through 6 on section I of the agenda. Supervisor Price,
Ma'am.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter.
She's a yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Hardy, Tim.
He's a yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Salath,
Yes.
Supervisor Spears,
Yes.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Almeida.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a affirmative vote for the motion.
Good. We're in the home stretch now, I believe. At this point, I'd like to present the consent agenda items for consideration by the board.
Sure, I'll read that recommendation. Staff recommends that the board approve the consent agenda, which consists of agenda items J1 through J2.
Motion?
Moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Jackson. Katie, is there a second on the floor? I can't hear.
Salath.
Second.
Thank you.
Laugh.
And we'll do a roll call vote for that one too.
Please. Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Price, Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy, Tim,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Salath,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith is absent. I apologize. Supervisor Spears, Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
and Supervisor Almeida.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved.
Good. I would like to encourage everyone to check on the updates and be sure to look at the review the information provided in the updates. Is there any additional business to come before the board at this point?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note for the record that we did not have any requests for public comment on our agenda at all today via phone, email, or web access.
Or announcements to come before the board? Would like to announce that I appreciate everyone's patience putting up with me for my first rodeo. So hopefully I'll try to do a little better next time. It was a little rough, but we'll get better. Anything else for the good of the order? Chair will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a bunch of those.
Carter, and a second by everyone else.
Yes. Select.
Laugh.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned at 11:51.
Okay. You think you can handle it? Yeah. All right. Now look, the bullets are gonna be flying. Hey, man. Be ready. Right, Greg?
Katie, can we turn the YouTube stream off?
I didn't get
Hey, Katie or Brandon, can we turn the YouTube stream off? Hey. Okay, great. The YouTube stream is still going right now. Okay. Okay, thanks. Bye.